There is nothing on this planet cuter than baby chicks. Isn't that right, Bubblicious? So let's learn how to keep them thriving so that they're not unaliving. Hello, friends. Welcome to Chickenlandia. My name is Dahlia. I'm a backyard chicken educator, also known as the president of Chickenlandia. Raising chickens has been the best way for me to find peace and joy in my life, and I want to help you find that too. I have had Bubblicious ever since he was a baby. Isn't that right, Bubba? Oh, I want baby chicks this year. I really, really do, but I cannot get them. I just can't get baby chicks this year. Hopefully no accidents, no unplanned pregnancies will happen in Chickenlandia. I gotta do the responsible thing. I have had some illness in my flock. You know, right now is not a good time to be bringing in baby chicks, but I can live vicariously through you. I am always fascinated by the fact that basically when baby chicks hatch, as soon as they're fluffed up, they are already like chickening. Like they are pecking and scratching, they're walking around, they're looking for food. They're like itty bitty tiny cotton ball chickens. Whereas you look at other species of birds, a lot of them, they're like, you know, they have to be in the nest. They just have their mouths open because they want food. They look like little bald men, elderly bald men. Nothing against elderly bald men. Don't cancel me for that, okay? I'm gonna put you down. If you are taking care of your baby chicks the Chickenlandia way, then I will tell you one of the most important things that you can do is to think about how a mother hen takes care of her baby chicks and try and emulate that as much as possible. So let's start with shelter. You know, a mother hen is going to keep her chickens in the coop. She's going, you know, initially she's going to have them in the nest, and then she will keep them in the coop. At night, she will bring them back into the coop. She'll lead them around the chicken yard, but at night she will take them to shelter. So she's going to keep them safe from the elements as best she can. Now you, as a human mother hen, you also have a responsibility to keep your baby chicks sheltered. So what you're going to do is offer your baby chicks a brooder environment. This can be a guinea pig cage, it can be a galvanized trough, it can be a large plastic tub. A lot of people start out that way, but if you start out in a plastic tub, you need to remember that they're probably going to outgrow that tub. There are many things that you can use as a brooder living environment for your baby chicks. You just need to make sure that it's safe, that it's free of drafts, and that it is big enough for the stage that they're in. Within that shelter, you need to supply your baby chicks with some bedding. Now, when my baby chicks first come home, I will put either paper towels on the bottom of their brooder, or I will put an old thin towel, something that I can wash very easily. You don't want it to have perfumes on it or like strings that they can get caught up in. You just want it to be flat, and they need to eat and drink very quickly. So you not only want them to have good traction on their little feet, you know, when they first arrive, they have good traction, so the paper towels they're nice and flat, but it'll give them a good space in which to walk and nothing slippery. But you also want it to be really easy for them to find food. So you can sprinkle the food around on the paper towel, on the very thin cloth towel that you have, so that they can find that food right away. After they've been on paper towels, usually just for a couple days, a few days, you can change out those paper towels, or if you're using a cloth towel, you can take that out and you can replace it with shavings. You can use pine shavings, you can use hemp shavings, you can use aspen shavings. There are also pine pellets that you can use. If you want to, you can keep them on the paper towels or the a thin cloth towel. Usually, unless you have tiny bantams, they're gonna make a mess of that and they're gonna start shredding up that paper towel. So that's something to consider. All right, let's talk about warmth. A mother hen is going to provide warmth with her body. The baby chicks are going to follow her around all the time. Whenever they need, they will run underneath her body. Even when it's cold, you'll see them go out and then come back in. And that is a natural way for a baby chick to come into this world, to have that warmth that's always near them. for your brooder environment, you are going to need to offer your baby chicks heat, okay? They need to have access to that. They need to be able to get away from it if they want to, okay? So you don't want it to be like just hot throughout the whole brooder. You have the heat going in one area. If you're using a heat lamp, prefer that it is a red heat lamp. That keeps them a little bit less stressed out. But then you want to have space where they can move away from that heat. I really prefer the radiant brooders. They're a little bit more expensive, but there's been some cheaper ones that I've seen on the market lately. Their little backs heat up underneath it, and they're able to go under it and come out of it and do their thing and go back under it when they need heat. And that is a very similar experience to what they experience with the mother hen. If you watch a mother hen and her babies, after about 48 hours, when everybody is hatched out and they're all fluffed up, she's gonna take them out into the chicken yard. Like, they're gonna go all over the chicken yard. She will lead them to food and water and just make sure that they're getting everything that they need. So when your baby chicks come home, remember I said you wanna sprinkle the feed around the brooder so that they find it very quickly, but you also wanna have a feeder available for them. Now, this can be like a traditional gravity feeder. You see them everywhere. But you can also just use a small bowl that's not going to tip over. You'll likely have more waste if you do that, but you can certainly use it. You don't have to buy anything. Or you can even use like a Frisbee. The main thing is that you want those baby chicks to find that food and find their water very quickly. And if you're using a heat lamp, this is very important. Don't put their feed and water under the heat lamp. You want to keep it a little bit away from their source of heat so that they can go to it and it's like normal temperature. A mother hen is also going to show her babies little tiny pebbles or coarse sand in their natural environment so that they can ingest that. It goes into their gizzard, and that is a very important part of their digestion. It helps to break up the food that they eat, and chickens need grit for their entire life. So when you have your baby chicks in your brooder, your artificial brooder environment, you want to supply them with grit. And you can buy grit at the store. You can also get clean, coarse sand to offer them. And you will see they have that instinct to ingest it, all right? Because they know instinctively that it's very important for them to have that. What I want you to do initially is just sprinkle some grit about the brooder. Do that for the first few days while you're making sure that they're eating. After that, you can sprinkle some grit into their feeder, and then they'll know to eat it when they see it in their feed. So now I want to talk about some things that I feel like I don't normally see. These are some very important points that I want to make that I think could be the difference between your baby chicks not doing so well or your baby chicks thriving. A mama hen is going to fiercely protect her baby chicks. She's going to protect them. She's going to make sure that they don't get into any messes that they can't get themselves out of. She's going to keep them from drowning. That's a big one, you know, if there's like puddles and stuff, that she's going to keep them from getting chilled. But when baby chicks are in their artificial environment, they don't have a mother hen to lead them away from danger and convince them, hey, don't get into your waterer. Like, don't immerse yourself in your waterer. You really don't want to do that. It's not good. You can drown or you can get chilled. And honestly, baby chicks can die from that. What I like to do when I bring my baby chicks home, when they first come home, they're very small, they're very vulnerable. I will put clean marbles or clean, small, smooth rocks in their waterer. And what happens is that they can take a sip out of their waterer, but they can't completely immerse themselves in their waterer, which for some reason baby chicks will sometimes do, and you really don't want them to do that. It's super dangerous. After, about a week, maybe a few days, it depends on the size of your chicks, you can just take that out because they've learned not to get into it. Little bantams, they probably need a little bit more time with the marbles in the waters because they're just so tiny. The main thing that you need to do to keep your baby chicks thriving is to make sure that they are not stressing out too much. And if you think about it, by the time you've got your baby chicks, they have probably already been through a very stressful experience. So when you bring them home, what I want you to do is, after that initial cuddle session, which I know is important, especially for little kids, you want to hold the baby chicks for a few minutes and just kind of soak in that cuteness. But after you've done that, you really need to just leave them in the brooder, keep an eye on them, make sure they're eating and drinking, and don't handle them too much in that first 24 hours. And stressed chicks, remember this, because you're going to carry this all the way through to your adult chickens. Stress chicks, stress chickens, those are the ones that are the most vulnerable to problems. We talked about how a mama hen is going to take her baby chicks all over the chicken yard. She's not going to hold back. The baby chicks are going to be exposed to all kinds of things. And that includes things in the chicken yard that we don't see. Viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa. These are all things that we think of as being very dangerous, and they can be dangerous to chickens and to baby chicks. But it is a very good scenario when a baby chick is allowed to slowly get exposure to these things. Because, I've seen lots of baby chicks, okay? I've seen baby chicks raised in the chicken yard, and I've seen them raised in a brooder environment. Most of the time, the ones that are raised in the chicken yard where they're exposed to all this stuff are healthier than the ones and more resilient than the ones raised in a artificial brooder environment. Now, that's not to say don't raise them in a brooder. I love doing that, okay? I'm not telling you not to do that. But think like a mother hen. If you can, if the weather permits, give your baby chicks gradual exposure to the outside so that they can get used to their natural environment. Their bodies can be introduced to all the things in the micro world in their natural environment, and it's not an utter shock when they suddenly get exposed to the outside, not only to like the elements and the weather and all that, but also to all the things that could be dangerous to them if they just suddenly have this drastic exposure to it. If you can't bring them outside, one thing that you can do is grab a clump of grass and dirt from the outside, make sure it doesn't have like pesticides or fertilizer in it or whatever, and put that in their brooder environment. And that's a way for them to get lots of enrichment and also a way for them to get that gradual exposure to the things in the outside world. Sometimes there is just a baby chick that is not thriving, and it might be right when you bring them home, you notice that they're just kind of listless, they're not eating, they're not drinking, and you need to act really fast if you see that happening. The good thing is I have a video all about it. That video is on the screen right now, and guess what? It's 100% friendly. Backyard chickens, education and entertainment, and I know you're really gonna love it.